Welcome back to Forkcast Hacker News Show number 6, 30 open source projects trending on HN. You have notes in Obsidian, docs in Notion, specs in Markdown files, and your AI agents know none of it. Every coding session starts from zero. Open Knowledge brings it all together, a beautiful Markdown editor that is also an LLM wiki, with native integrations for Claude, Codex, and Cursor. Think Notion meets VS Code, but every page is a plain Markdown file in your repo. It ships a Mac OS app, a web UI, and a CLI. Your agents finally have a second brain they can actually read and write to. Your Node.js project needs a TypeScript runner, a package manager, a version manager, and a script runner, 5 tools, 5 configs, and a slow startup for every command. Nub replaces all of them with a single Rust binary that sits on top of stock node. It runs TypeScript files with 0 build step, auto-loads your .env, and dispatches scripts 24 times faster than pnap run. Auto-node version provisioning means it grabs the right version from your .nvmrc. 2.9 times faster startup than TX-MIT licensed, and it just works. Your AI coding agent burns premium model credits on every prompt. Simple file reads, basic refactors, and complex architecture all cost the same. But what if each request could be routed to the cheapest model that handles it well? Workweave Router is a drop-in proxy that sits between your tools and the API, making sub-50 millisecond routing decisions using an on-box cluster score. It speaks Anthropic, OpenAI, and Gemini natively and cuts costs 40 to 70% with just an endpoint change. One npx command wires it into Claude Code, Codex, or Cursor. You close your MacBook lid thinking your agent will keep building, and it goes to sleep, killing a 30-minute deploy midway. But keeping the Mac awake permanently drains battery and risks overheating in your bag. Adrafinil is a menu bar app that blocks sleep only while an agent has an active session. It integrates with 9 coding agents, including Claude Code, Codex, and Cursor, uses a reference-counted assertion system, and has a thermal cutout that force releases if your laptop gets too hot with the lid closed. Sub-50 millisecond CLI means 0 agent lag. dbosify-py was the database that taught a generation of developers how to think in tables and records. But it has been trapped in DOS since 1984, with no browser access, no multi-user support, and no modern storage. WebBaseIII brings the entire dbosify-py experience into your browser, a full W3 script interpreter with over 50 commands, a browse grid with inline editing, form engine, indexing, and persistent SQLite storage. Multi-user via WebSockets means every connected session sees live record changes. Use customers like it is 1984, except now it runs everywhere. Temporal gives you durable workflows with retries and recovery, but it also gives you a separate server cluster to maintain, monitor, and pay for. What if you could get all of that with just Postgres? dbosify is a drop-in replacement. Change your import from Temporalio to dbosify, point it at a Postgres connection string, and your workflows, activities, signals, and updates all run through database tables. A deterministic interpreter guarantees exactly once completion, even through kill and recover scenarios. 0 extra infrastructure. Every LLM CLI tool requires Python or Node with dozens of dependencies. On a minimal server, a Raspberry Pi, or an Android phone running Termux, those dependencies are a non-starter. bash4llm is a single self-contained bash script, no Python, no Node, just curl and JQ. It talks to Grok's OpenAI-compatible API with streaming, session management, batch processing, and dynamic model listing. It even auto-detects Termux and adapts its locking strategy. The entire tool is auditable in one file. You want to understand how an LLM actually works, not through PyTorch abstractions, but the raw forward pass, the handwritten backprop, the actual memory layout on a GPU. nanoeuler is a GPT-2 style language model built entirely from scratch in C and CUDA. 116 million parameters, handwritten flash attention that delivers a 3x speedup, byte-level BPE tokenizer, and gradient checks verified to under 10 to the -4 error. It trains on a single consumer GPU and even fine-tunes into a chat model. Every line is readable. Every kernel is explained. Linux system profilers are either outdated GTK relics with incorrect battery data or CLI-only tools that scatter information across 5 terminal windows. Ferrix System Monitor is a modern GUI profiler built with Rust and the ICE toolkit. It gives you real-time CPU and RAM charts, deep DMI tables with more data than HardenFO2, CPU vulnerability listings, battery health, installed package inventories, and even UEFI settings access, clean UI, accurate data, and cross-compiled app image builds. This is what a Linux system profiler should look like in 2026. You back up your SSH keys and API tokens with a secrets manager that uses a custom encryption format. 5 years later, that tool is unmaintained, and your backups are unreadable artifacts. Sexman takes the opposite approach. It encrypts with age, verifies with SHA-256-SUM, and stores time-stamped snapshots. If the tool disappears tomorrow, you can recover every secret with just a terminal, core utils, and the age binary. It even ships an SSH script for securely backing up remote machines without exposing your passphrase. No vendor lock-in by design. Text classification across 50 languages usually means 50 separate pipelines, 50 different models, and 50 maintenance headaches. AutoFit 2 collapses all of that into a single JSON config file and one command. It uses setfit with Spirit embeddings for few-shot learning, achieving 95 to 99% precision with just a few dozen labeled examples per language. The pipeline is resumable, generates model cards automatically, and even tracks CO2 emissions. One config, 50-plus languages, one train command. A complex multi-repo feature requires research, planning, implementation, and review. And you are switching between Claude, Codex, and 5 terminal windows just to keep track. Agentic-orchestrator from DoorDash wraps all of this into a single GoTUI. You describe a feature, it builds a knowledge base, runs research and design phases, creates isolated Git work trees, and drives implementation with Claude and Codex as co-equal providers. Plan validators check architecture, security, and performance before any code lands. Multiple features run in parallel, each in its own workspace. Switching gears now, here are the AI development tools that caught Hacker News attention. Coding agents are powerful but unpredictable. The same prompt can produce different code, different structure, and different bugs on every run. That makes them unreliable for CI/CD pipelines that demand reproducibility. Rigorix solves this by compiling intent into a deterministic DAG before any code is generated. It classifies the task, applies a template, extracts parameters, validates the plan against risk policies, and only then executes. Every run produces an HMAC-signed audit trail. The LLM generates code, Rigorix governs execution. Restream and StreamYard charge per channel and lock your production in the cloud. You are paying monthly fees just to send the same video feed to YouTube, Twitch, and Kick simultaneously. Shed is a fully self-hosted multi-stream studio. Ingest from OPS, hardware encoders, or browser over RTMP, SRT, or WebRTC. Switch inputs live in a browser-based production switcher and fan out to every platform at once. It includes program failover, a scene compositor, audio mixer, and even a Stream Deck plugin. No cloud middleman, no per-channel fees, AGPL licensed. LLM inference allocates a fixed KV cache. Too small, and you lose context. Too large, and you hit when the system is under memory pressure. The PSI KV governor hooks into Linux pressure stall information to dynamically prune the cache based on real system load. When memory pressure rises, it trims less important cache entries. When pressure drops, it keeps more. Benchmarks on Jetson hardware show it maintains or even improves token throughput while reducing final cache size by up to 16%. Your LLM gets polite about system memory. Running a single Hermes agent is straightforward. Running 10 across different Docker containers with different personas and tasks means constant Docker PS and Docker logs in 5 terminal tabs. Agent Fleet Console gives you a unified local-first dashboard for managing fleets of Dockerized Hermes agents. Deploy, monitor, and orchestrate multiple agents from a single interface. If you are scaling up your agent infrastructure beyond a single instance, this is the control plane you have been missing. ClickHouse is blazing fast, but raw SQL queries do not capture business logic. Your analytics team duplicates the same metric definitions across dashboards, notebooks, and API endpoints. hypequery is a TypeScript-native semantic layer that lets you define metrics, dimensions, and cubes in code, then query them through a unified API. It sits between your application and ClickHouse, translating business concepts into optimized queries, one source of truth for every metric in your organization. Building real-time voice AI agents today means Python. The entire WebRTC conversational AI ecosystem is built on Python's async primitives. But what if your entire backend is Go? Jargo is a WebRTC native conversational AI framework for Go, porting Pipecat's architecture into idiomatic Go with Go routines and channels. Audio first, low latency streaming, and designed for building voice agents that feel like real conversation, Go developers finally get a native voice AI framework. Your AI agent generates a shell script and wants to run it, but giving it unrestricted file system access is one bad RM command away from disaster. TakoVM provides a secure file system sandbox specifically designed for agent code execution. It creates a virtual file system with permission boundaries so the agent can read, write, and execute inside the sandbox without ever touching your real files. The agent gets the environment it needs, and your project stays safe. Think Docker, but designed for the agent use case. Leet code practice traps your solutions and progress behind a proprietary platform. You cannot version control your learning, run tests offline, or share solutions without a subscription. openleetcode inverts this. Test live alongside your solutions in the repo, and the runner is open source. Write your solution, commit it with the test file, and your progress is permanently versioned. Switching gears now, here is what is happening in languages and frameworks. Hexdump is one of those tools you use daily without thinking about performance, until you point it at a multi-gigabyte binary and watch it crawl. fasthex is a SIMD-accelerated hex dumper written in Rust that uses memory-mapped I/O and vectorized output formatting to fly through large files. Configurable output width, zero copy where possible, and significantly faster than the standard XXD or hexdump for large payloads. Sometimes the small tools deserve a rewrite too. Security monitoring dashboards are utilitarian and boring, rows of metrics, blinking red dots, and zero personality. GilfoyleAI takes inspiration from Silicon Valley's most cynical engineer and wraps network monitoring in sardonic threat alerts. It watches your network and delivers security notifications with the deadpan wit of a sysadmin who has seen too much. Is it production grade? No. Will it make you smile while checking your firewall logs? Absolutely. A fun reminder that security tools do not have to be soul-crushing. Writing SQL for exploratory data analysis is tedious. You know what question you want to answer. But translating it into joins, subqueries, and window functions takes you out of the flow. Dribble is an AI-powered open-source database IDE that lets you describe what you want in natural language and get back executable queries with visualizations. It connects directly to your database, understands your schema, and generates queries that you can review and refine. Think of it as a conversational interface for your data warehouse. Enterprise network flow analyzers are expensive, Java-heavy, and overkill for most teams. Open-source alternatives exist but are often abandoned or overly complex. Xenoeye is a lightweight NetFlow, IPFix, and S-Flow collector written in C++ that stores flow data in PostgreSQL and visualizes through Grafana, tools you already run. No JVM, no cloud dependency, no AI buzzwords, just a fast, reliable flow collector that integrates with the observability stack you already have, 140 stars and actively maintained. Developing drone swarm algorithms means either expensive hardware test flights or simplistic simulations that do not model real perception. The aerial-autonomy-stack bridges this gap, a C++ framework that simulates perception-based autonomy for PX4 and Ardu pilot drone swarms before you ever leave the ground. It models camera feeds, LiDAR, and onboard processing so you can validate swarm coordination, obstacle avoidance, and mission planning entirely in simulation. Over 500 stars from the robotics community. You join a new project and the codebase is 10,000 files deep. Control-click navigation only gets you so far. You need to understand architecture, data flow, and the intent behind the code. Shoaku is an IntelliJ plugin that brings AI-powered code navigation directly into your IDE. It explains what a class does, traces how data flows through the system, and answers questions about the codebase without leaving your editor. Built in Kotlin, it integrates natively with the IntelliJ platform. Your primary coding agent is smart, but it has blind spots, a security vulnerability that Claude misses, Gemini might catch, an architectural flaw that GPT overlooks, Claude might flag. Second Opinion is a Claude code skill that automatically sends code changes to a different model for review before they land. It is like having a second senior engineer who uses a completely different reasoning approach. Switching gears one last time, here's the security and everything else category. LLM agents have a hard context limit. After 50 to 100 turns, the earliest context gets dropped and the agent forgets what it was doing. You either lose critical information or pay for exponentially growing token costs as the conversation balloons. Context. Warp Drive uses deterministic folding to compress conversation history with guaranteed semantic preservation. It identifies what can be safely summarized versus what must remain verbatim, keeping your agent sessions coherent for much longer without the token tax. Onboarding to a new codebase usually means reading thousands of lines with no guidance. You do not need the same overview as your tech lead, and your tech lead does not need the same detail as a code reviewer. Sonar generates cited codebase briefings tailored to your specific role. Tell it you are a developer, an architect, or a reviewer, and it produces a briefing that cites actual code files and explains what matters for your perspective. Fully local, no cloud dependency, your code never leaves your machine. You are working on a project that spans Java, C++, and C++, and every language has its own logging framework with different APIs, different formats, and different configuration. Lightweight Logger solves this with a single-header, single-file logging library that works identically across all three languages. Drop the file in, call the same API, and get consistent colored console output regardless of which language your current module is written in. Zero dependencies, zero configuration, one consistent interface. Developers frequently encounter issues with a common development problem. It can be incredibly frustrating to deal with these persistent challenges, but use-zerostack is changing that. This various-based project offers a fresh approach to use-zerostack. Delegate any task to a lightweight coding agent. How does it manage to simplify such a complex area? By providing robust functionality and efficient performance. With over 0 stars, it demonstrates impressive adoption and real-world. Developers frequently encounter issues with a common development problem. It can be incredibly frustrating to deal with these persistent challenges, but SpacePacket1 E3D Pod 2 Vid is changing that. This various-based project offers a fresh approach to E3D Pod 2 Vid, AI pipeline that turns podcasts into YouTube-ready videos. How does it manage to simplify such a complex area? By providing robust functionality and efficient performance. With over 0 stars, it demonstrates impressive adoption and real-world. The complexity of AI-driven solutions often adds an extra layer of difficulty, making innovation feel out of reach. But abhavk/erlangchain is changing that. This various-based project offers a fresh approach to erlangchain, a tiny Erlang client for LLMs. How does it manage to simplify such a complex area? By providing robust functionality and efficient performance. With over 0 stars, it demonstrates impressive adoption and real-world utility. This is more than the complexity of AI-driven solutions often adds an extra layer of difficulty, making innovation feel out of reach. But type def AI fenic is changing that. This various-based project offers a fresh approach to fenic, LLMs as data frame operators, query meaning and structure. How does it manage to simplify such a complex area? By providing robust functionality and efficient performance. With over 0 stars, it demonstrates impressive adoption and real-world utility. Developers frequently encounter issues with a common development problem. It can be incredibly frustrating to deal with these persistent challenges, but their panic openleetcode is changing that. This various-based project offers a fresh approach to openleetcode, local LeetCode runner with open test suites. How does it manage to simplify such a complex area? By providing robust functionality and efficient performance. With over 0 stars, it demonstrates impressive adoption and real-world utility. That is all 30 projects from Hacker News Episode 6. Every GitHub link is in the description. Grab anything that caught your eye. Subscribe and you will never miss the next trending breakout repo on Forkcast.